Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and in today's video we're going to get a look at the pincer formation because this seems incredibly strong. It literally just dropped. I'm pre-caffeine, so I'm a little bit tired, but I had a great conversation courtesy of Ruz from the King's Codex. He introduced me yet again to Davor, who put together a spreadsheet evaluating the detailed math behind what's better, arch or pincer. So first we'll review, hey, how does pincer look? Give it the sniff test. I guess that's a smell, not a look, but whatever. We'll look it over, okay? Then we'll look at some data. And when I say some data, we are talking about some pretty basic math, although sophisticated in the endeavor to understand how pincer performs relative to arch. And then we'll just keep in mind, and I want to caveat this, that like, look, yes, this math is fantastic, and a lot of attention to detail has been put into it, but also it's like representing some happy case scenarios, and there's a few things that aren't represented that are just too complex to represent. We need to talk about them, okay? So use the timestamps, jump to whichever part you like, and let's get started with pincer formation, okay? As the infantry guy, okay? The infantry guy in the room, I'm hyped but also anxious for this formation because I literally just spent, I don't know, a couple $100 worth of conversion stones on my restart account like a week or two before they announced pincer formation. So anyways, let's get a look here. Toppler. Wielder's troop gains a 5% boost to smite damage. Now remember, this is a boost, so this is better than a 5%, increase to smite damage in the way that you see like an all damage boost or a damage taken reduction. These boosts on the legendary inscriptions are way better and the rare inscriptions are way better than what you sort of normally see, okay? Whenever their troop deals smite damage, the target takes 20% increased smite damage for the next 3 seconds. This effect can trigger multiple times in this single second, up to 5 times before entering its cooldown. So hypothetically, if you had a way to deal smite damage 5 times, the target would take 100% increased smite damage, okay? That is amazing for like a multi-rally with smite, I guess. Because in the open field, these days, debuffs are really dropping in terms of style, but also for swarming a garrison, isn't that insane? Wait, yes, the target troop takes 20% increased smite damage. I feel like this is very, very good for swarming a garrison. In the open field, I don't know how much you're going to notice this. The other thing I'll point out is that there aren't that many sources of smite damage. I suppose like the 2 open fielders, right? BQ and Liu Cha paired together, you'd have a fair amount of smite opportunity and instant proc opportunity to maybe get this to go twice in the same turn. Look, I don't know what the world needs to be where we get 5 instances of smite damage in a single turn, but I don't think we're there yet. 1 or 2 is what you're going to get. And if you did get 5 instances of smite damage in a single turn, somehow, magically, I feel like you're out of options for doing smite damage on the next turn, or even the next 3 seconds. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there's some way. Maybe they do some sort of combo smite shenanigans. Oh my God. Some combo smite shenanigans in a artifact KVK. Imploder, the blue one. Whenever this wielder's troop deals smite damage, target troop loses 20% defense for the next 2 seconds. Seems good. Can trigger multiple times per turn, up to 3 times before entering its cooldown. Its cooldown in 5 seconds. This is guaranteed to get you value, by the way. Like, you are going to hit them with smite damage, obviously, and they're going to lose 20% defense for 2 seconds. So weirdly with this one, like you might debuff them, but happen to not do smite damage again. But this one over here, you just get value. I think the blue inscription is pretty good. Definitely not better than the legendary inscription, but certainly noteworthy in its function here. And the debuff is great. Reducing the defense of the target, everybody can take advantage of, all your other damage dealers, not just your combo. So it is interesting. I think this is way better than Destructive. Destructive has gotten a lot of hate. And Davor, who I was talking with, sort of said, yes, it almost feels like people complained about destructive, so they gave us this new formation to use and buy conversion stones to go and get. And it's like, well, maybe. We're going to talk about, like, maybe. I think for open field, though, this is pretty much a lock. Let's go to the next one. Demolisher. What do we have here? Gain a 5% boost to smite damage. Okay. I mean, we're boosting smite damage, and whenever their troop deals smite damage, 75% chance to ignore 50% defense. That is impressive. Now, this is not a debuff to the enemy, per se. It is a buff to yourself, and then you ignore the target's defense. This is something that is in Call of Dragons, ignoring health, ignoring attack, ignoring defense. You buff yourself. It is not a debuff to the enemy, so the scale of this is still just your army. This effect can, however, trigger multiple times in a single second, up to 5 times before entering its cooldown. If it only triggers once, you gain 100 rage. But it has a cooldown of 10 seconds. So, theoretically, you could get these both to trigger, like, depending on how the skill cycles align. But that would mean that you are dealing more smite damage and ignoring their defense, like your first skill cycle could do this. I mean, seems pretty good. More likely you'll get some sort of instant proc damage before your first skill cycle with smite damage that is going to trigger this, and you gain the 100 rage. And gaining 100 rage is insane. It's obviously great in the field. This is amazing in the field. This might be... Is this the best inscription for this formation? We'll find out. Raider. Wielder's troop gains a 2% boost to smite damage. Whenever their troop deals smite damage, it has a 50% chance to gain rage 20% faster for the next 3 seconds. This has the potential to be more than 100 rage, maybe? But I'll take the... I mean... And also it has a smoother rage gain rate. So 100 rage in a burst is really amazing, but there's a chance that you overrage. Whereas like 20% rage gain for 3 seconds. I don't know. How much rage are we really going to get there? At least like 60. I mean, like 20 per second for 3 seconds. It seems pretty good. Honestly, quite good. Like the rare inscription seems quite good here. Then we've got on the flag, Airtight. Wielder's troop gains 5% combo attack damage resistance. This is the Subutai answer right here. It really like is obviously they're like, okay, Inf, handle the calves. Obviously, that's what this is. Whenever their troop deals smite damage, their troop takes 10% less damage for the next 3 seconds and a cooldown of 5 seconds. Man, oh man. I mean, if you get a high uptime on this, whew, that's a lot less damage taken. Okay, and then Hard-Headed. Wielder's troop gains 4% combo attack damage resistance. Yeah, the flags generally seem to be really, really weak, in my opinion, for the rare inscriptions. Like, look at Wedge, rare inscription. Like, nobody wants to use it, right? Especially when you compare to the, like 2% all damage when in the field that you can get, right? I can find this over here. Assertive, right? Yeah, that's amazing. When you're on the map, 2% all damage. So it feels to me like the rare inscriptions on the flag tend to be designed for like rally garrison. That's how I would interpret that. And then finally, we've got Thundering. This is the emblem. 10% boost to smite damage. Very straightforward. It's solid, obviously. Rattling. Wielder's troop gains a 4% boost to smite damage dealt. Seems good. Here's the crazy thing, okay? We know what Arch is. We've had it for a while. We can review this, and we're going to get a look at the math in just a minute. But my interpretation of what's here, using like the common sense check and a bunch of conversations that I've had, what I would say is that for open field, Pincer feels better than Arch overall. But for rally garrison, like if you're getting swarmed, Arch seems insane. It seems like the most important thing. So in other words, Pincer seems great if you're not getting swarmed. Arch seems great if you run the risk of getting swarmed. And that is the oversimplification of which I would use when. In a perfect world, Pincer for the open field. But that assumes you're using double smite commanders, right? Because a lot of people are using Liucha Alex, and in a like kind of a weird way, this is a little low blow to the Alex over here because he's not going to benefit from all this pincer stuff. And it puts you in kind of a weird spot with that formation. Not that Arch was like overly benefiting Liu Cha and Alex, except I mean, I think it's obviously very good there. Yeah, I think it's definitely a big incentive to have a double smite pairing in the combo. And I do kind of wonder, like, okay, with pincer formation, does William now finally get the recognition as maybe being better than the Alex in the pairing? Maybe, maybe not. Depends on how far you were pushing the formations. Most people probably weren't pushing them that far. But if you were pushing them to the extreme, how much better is Pincer than Arch in the open field? To get a look at this, we're going to get a look at the table put together by Davor, and this data I think is really compelling, so let's go get a look. Shout out again to Ruz for brokering the introduction to Davor. We did a collab on a prior video about, hey, like which stat should you prioritize? I'll reference that later. But this information is also available in the King's Codex. I'll link to that. Had a conversation with Ruz about that in a separate video. That video, it'll be in the end screen, all right? Let's talk about what's here. This is an evaluation of Archer Pincer for the open field, which is pretty cool. Now, at the time that Davor put this together, your commander pair options were William Wallace and also Liu Cha for Smite specifically. We didn't know at the time that he prepared this sheet that BQ was going to come into the game. We didn't know anything about BQ at the time he prepared this, all this math, right? Now, this says work in progress, which implies that, like, yeah, stuff in here could change, but I think it's good enough for us to get a look at, and there's a bunch to talk about, okay? So in this sheet, we start with a base calculation for, hey, how much damage would you deal with no formation? Then they add in a formation. Then they start adding in some legendary inscriptions, and we compare the damage output, right? Now, the flaw here is we're only looking at damage output, not damage mitigation, okay? And that's okay. It's still, I think, really valuable to look at this, all right? So let's start with the base calculation. What they're doing here is assuming, like, hey, you're going to charge into a fight, do a skill cycle, and kind of run away. And you'll get some instant proc damage that's represented in here. You've got your normal attack damage, smite damage, and combo damage, because yes, Liu Cha does combo attacks, lol. Okay, so first thing he did is he figured out, okay, here's the base amount of damage we deal. What formation would improve this pairing the most? Just add the formation. We're not talking about the armaments and any of the stuff that's going on with them. 5% normal damage versus 10% smite damage. And the 5% normal damage from Arch increases your DPS by about 3.09%. But remember, this is not accounting for doing counterattacks as well. Okay, so this is a happy path, swinging in, DPSing for a bit without getting hit and doing a skill cycle, all right? This gets better when you're getting hit, obviously, because that's boosting your normal attack damage dealt. That includes counterattacks. Pincer formation over here is a 4.16% lift. So it's 1/3 more lift, though, compared to this one. This is 3%, this is 4%. It's 1/3 more to use Pincer. But, you know, 1/3 more sounds a lot more dramatic than it really is, because we haven't even accounted for all the other inscriptions yet, right? So next thing he does is he says, okay, let's go and let's compare Arch with Destructive versus Toppler, okay? So your damage boost with Destructive, it takes an extra second because you're losing rage, but your DPS overall is about a 4% lift, whereas losing seconds really sucks. Pincer formation is almost a 12% lift to damage. That's the Pincer formation plus the Toppler scroll inscription. So, like, Toppler obviously way better than Destructive by, like, such a long shot that it's actually jaw-dropping. And I would really hope that Destructive just, like, gets fixed or patched or, like, something. I mean, it's not technically broken. It's, like, doing what it's supposed to do, but I'd rather it did something else. Okay, so then he gets a look and says, okay, well, what about Fearless and Thundering? A different slot entirely. And, like, how does that compare? And it's about the same lift. for just those inscriptions. 11.35, 11.77. I mean, that's about the same, right? Anything that's not like a huge percent difference here, I'm going to be like, I mean, who knows? Because not that the math is wrong, but like with the way combat works, like, will it be meaningful? Will it be noticeable, right? We're looking for like the huge gains. But let's say you add in a bunch of stuff. Destructive, straight to the point, and fearless. Okay? Toppler, demolisher, and thundering. Now, this doesn't include every inscription, which is, we'll talk about why that is a little bit problematic in just a second. But it's also really hard to account for them because of what they're doing. But without having every inscription, just doing 3 of them, we'll talk about what's missing in a second, you get a 14.8% improvement to the base damage using Arch and a 23.92% boost using Pincer. It is such a big leap. It's like unbelievable. And I think a part of the value of what you see up here is that a huge amount of this leap is coming from Toppler versus Destructive. Actually, like a lot of it comes from Toppler versus Destructive. Now, there's a flaw with this way of looking at things. But if we look at it at face value and we said, the sort of sniff check was like, intuitively, I thought Pincer would be better for the open field. And what this is saying is mathematically, it's like 50% better for the open field, right? Like, this is about 14%. This is about 21%. I mean, I'm rounding in a way that is unnecessary, but like just some like mental math, like it is about 50% better, but we're missing something. And let's just go back in game to show you what we're missing here. Because this is looking at 3 of these legendary inscriptions. We're not including the 4th because one of them is kind of defensive. Let's talk about that. So the flag is what's missing here. Okay, and what Airtight does, remember, is 5% combo attack damage resistance. That's not worth much, honestly, for open field. Obviously, there's going to be some combo caps, but it's not worth that much. And whenever their troop deals smite damage, they take 10% less damage for the next 3 seconds. Okay, that's a big deal, right? That's a big deal. You know what else is a big deal? If we go to Arch and we look over here, how's this flag? Invincible. Skill damage resistance of 5% is way better than combo damage resistance. But this you'll get way less value from in the open field. For every 20% of units that you've lost, you deal 3% more normal damage. And this may even reset when you leave combat. I'm not sure, but I think it might. So if it resets every time you leave combat, like how good is this really? I don't know. Obviously getting 12% all damage is really good in a rally garrison, which is why I keep saying for Arch, I think the answer, or rather, yeah, for Rally Garrison, I think the answer is going to be Arch. But for open field, I feel like we've got a pretty open and shut case here for Pincer is the way. All hail the new overlord of the open field. Obviously, testing is required, but even without the testing, I'll give this the Chisgule seal of approval for open field. The only thing that I would say is that these are very expensive actions to take to spend $800 worth of conversion stones for full legendary. Most people don't have that, obviously, but if you had even just one legendary inscription, like 10 conversion stones is a lot, and a few rares, we're looking at like 20 conversion stones potentially, closing in on that. So I guess it'd be less than 20. The point I'm trying to make is the safest thing is, of course, to wait for testing, but I'm feeling very confident that for open field, especially if you're using double smite, Pincer is going to be the jam. And I'm pretty mad that I, like, weeks before we got to see, Pincer's coming to the game, I spent a bunch of conversion stones taking a legendary inscription to Arch on my restart. GG. It would be really cool if, like, you switched anything to Arch within the last X period of time that you got some extra conversion stones to switch to something else, but whatever. So now let's talk about Rally Garrison, okay? And this is a lot trickier to do, specifically because, like, Davor in his sheet has not sort of accounted for Invincible. But it still is really valuable because we can go look at his math for Rally Garrison. And what we can do is take away from that, hey, we think Arch will be even better because of this than is represented. So let's get a look and see what we think, right? Okay, so here's the same thing. Davor went and he did this. Now we have attack, counterattack, and smite for our baseline damage. So we compare to the sort of baseline to see how much of a lift will we get. And what pairing are we using here? This is a rally. Okay, this is a rally, not necessarily a garrison. And he's using Skippy A and Liu Chat. I don't think that's a combo I would actually use. I probably would use actually Wallace and Skippy A. Maybe am I doing it wrong? wait, is Liu Chat actually better? I don't think so. But whatever. I think directionally this is still very helpful in my opinion. But I probably would, S.A. Wallace would be my rally there. But I don't know. The new commander probably wouldn't replace Wallace for a rally yet. We'll see. So the improvement to the DPS here, if you use Pincer, is very marginal over Arch in the base case, where it's like, hey, no armaments, just like base, how is it? And then as we start to elevate things or escalate here, it comes all the way down to this. Give me the bottom line, Chisgule. If we have straight to the point and fearless, and over here we have Toppler, Demolisher, and Thundering. And I guess we're not using Destructive over here because, like, people consider it to just be worse, which is kind of funny. Like, you're just losing DPS, I guess. Are you? Ugh. Anyways, they're pretty close to even. It's close enough that, like, I don't know, it's napkin math. I mean, it's pretty sophisticated for napkin math, but, like, you know, considering that we're not comparing an actual in-game test, and even then you need to look at an in-game test with a sample size that's very large so you don't get a skewed result, they're pretty close. But I would actually kind of skew this heavily in favor of Arch the moment you factor in all of the inscriptions and the moment that you factor in swarming. Swarming is really where it like very much tops off for me to say, I think that Arch is going to be the way to go for Rally Garrison, weirdly enough. I could be wrong there, but given that both of our Garrison commanders are doing single target smite damage anyways, like, yeah, I feel pretty good about Arch being the play for Rally Garrison where you expect to get swarmed, and probably Pincer to be the play for Rally Garrison where you will not get swarmed. And I will say that Pincer taking 5% less combo damage feels like a really important answer to what the new Subutai Rally is kind of doing here. So I think the long story short is that if you want the best open field, I suspect Pincer is going to be it. How much better it is exactly, we'll have to test and see, and it depends on how much you play to the front of the ball, taking damage, versus play to the back of the ball and are just dishing out damage. And then for Rally Garrison, unswarmed, I think you could argue for Pincer, but Arch could actually potentially even just be better. It kind of depends on how important the flag ends up being there. And if you are getting swarmed, I suspect that Arch is just going to be the way. Because, like, all that normal damage boost is completely insane, whereas Pincer boosting Smite is not going to help. So for my main account, where this is my set of armaments, I think I'm very squarely in the place of definitely just wait and see. Definitely wait and see for the testing. 100%. If we get a look at my restart account, which is an open field account, there I think we're clearly in the situation of wanting to flip things over. Maybe. But, like, it's funny, but, like, maybe. How urgently, really, do I want to flip things over? It's funny because when you look at the details, it's like, wait, hold up. How obvious is it? Because my Arch stuff is okay. It needs work. I've used, by the way, 5 of the crystals re-rolling on this, and this is the best I've got for infantry stats so far. No cap. I have used quite literally 5 transmutation crystals so far, and all I've gotten is 3.2 infantry health and the 1.8 defense, and I have not done better. I am getting absolutely decimated by the randomness of this system. Truly decimated. But whatever. So obviously battle ready is like considered to be really mid because of the rage reduction, or even bad. So getting rid of this would be a huge win, especially in favor of the Toppler alternative. I can't remember what the name of the blue one is. Then, you know, fearsome. I mean, it's this formation or it's that formation. It doesn't even change the calculus for me. This doesn't change the calculus for me either. Right? So, like, actually, fearless is kind of better. Like, weirdly enough, on this account, I definitely would get a better inscription over here. For sure. Okay? In the pincer formation. But it would be worse over here. Fearless is how much? What is this? Oh, it's 8% boost to normal damage. Versus 10% boost to smite, right? I don't know. I'll have to figure out when I make the switch here. But I literally just spent 10 conversion stones to switch this one over and some other things over to this formation. So, GG. Enjoy the vid. Throw a like on here. Subscribe. My kids are waking up. I hear them running around. I got to go say hi to them and then edit this vid, all right? You enjoyed it? Throw a like on here, subscribe. Check out the videos in the end here, all right? One is the King's Codex. That's Ruz's Discord server, where Davor talks about some of this math that he's done and where these sheets are posted. Also, you can go to the video that I did with Davor in the past talking about stats and like what is the best stat and the mathematical breakdown of exactly what you should get and why. I'll have that card over here as well. Both incredibly helpful videos in my opinion. Until next time, you have fun smashing your enemies. Shout out again to Ruz and Davor. I'll see y'all in the next one and leave a comment with what you think of these formations. GG.